Hello, I'm Julian Whittle from Cumbria Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with Steve Dixon of Morgan Sindall, Mark Turner of the Supply Chain Sustainability School, and Eva Foran of Cumbria Business Growth Hub. We're recording this podcast at an awareness day in West Cumbria aimed at SMEs who want to work in the nuclear industry. Some of the businesses here are already operating in nuclear and are looking to pick up more work. Others are making their first foray into the sector. The session is being run by the Growth Hub, Morgan Sindall and the Supply Chain Sustainability School. Steve, Morgan Sindall is a huge construction business and a Tier 2 supplier at Sellafield. What sort of opportunities can you offer SMEs?
So we need to build a supply chain family to help us service our clients and deliver our work programmes. All of our contracts in nuclear are of long durations, 10 to 20 years circa. Therefore, we can offer a longevity of work. We are looking for a broad range of expertise, including design, temporary works, demolition, civils, construction, steel work and fabrication, manufacturing and fit out, mechanical and electrical, instrumentation, testing and commissioning, and some professional services. So we require help across the full project life cycle. There will be opportunities to work directly with Morgan Sindall, work in joint ventures and alliances with other supply chain partners, or feed in at a lower tier of the supply chain.
So are these opportunities in nuclear confined to Sellafield? Because I'm conscious we're in Workington, we're in West Cumbria today, but I believe you operate at other nuclear sites, don't you?
Yeah, so it isn't just Sellafield. We're also working at BAE Systems in Barrow on an infrastructure programme which will enable our client to deliver the new Dreadnought submarine programme. And although it isn't in Cumbria, we've just been successful in achieving a place on the Clyde Commercial Framework, which is a 10-year programme of work for our client, the Defence Infrastructure Organisation, to modernise their naval bases in West Scotland.
Okay, so there are plenty of opportunities there. Why is the supply chain so important to Morgan Sindall? Why in particular are you keen to have more SME subcontractors and suppliers?
So I think that large organisations now concentrate on what they are successful at. In other words, their subject matter expertise or USP, and then they partner with other organisations who are able to supply goods and services to complement the delivery of the work. Although Morgan Sindall run complex programmes of work, we are not the subject matter expertise for all of that work.
Yeah.
And therefore we need the supply chain to provide their knowledge and understanding and innovative techniques to deliver their part of the work. The SMEs are really important, as usually they have specific knowledge of the products and usually more specific knowledge of working with the clients in the geographical area. Cumbria is a prime example of this, where SMEs have that knowledge and experience on working in nuclear and defence and everything that entails working on those sites where security, health and safety and quality is such a big aspect of that work.
Okay. Mark, tell me about the Supply Chain Sustainability School. What's their role and how can they help SMEs?
The school was set up in 2012 by a number of partners. Morgan Sindall, in fact, was a founding partner of the school, and it was originally set up to service the construction industry and was based around the fact that all the main contractors working in construction, and certainly the partners that we were talking to at the time, were aware that there was a weakness in the sustainability performance around businesses. The construction supply chain is typically made up of quite a mix of smaller and larger businesses. SMEs can make up about 50% of that supply chain. And also in the construction supply chain, it is very much supply chain driven in that most construction organisations nowadays are a construction manager. They don't directly deliver. They do it through quite a long, quite deep supply chain. So in order to deliver sustainability objectives, let's say of clients, of end clients, that has to come through the supply chain, and without control and direction on that, things can go wrong. So the school was set up to a common aim, and was had quite an ethos that was built around it, that the service would be free at the point of use, so no supplier would pay for that, and that's true to this day. So no supplier ever pays for the service. It's also confidential to the suppliers, so when the suppliers work with the school, the contractor that they might be working for, or the client that they might be working for, will not see direct detail of any work that they do within the school. So it's an online resource that also services a large number of events. We develop a lot of themes. We work across the whole area of sustainability, from the obvious sort of environmental stuff you'd expect to see around energy, carbon, waste, water, biodiversity and so on, increasingly into the area of local economic benefit, social value, fair treatment. Issues like modern slavery are very, very important to cover. All the kind of issues around fair payment, minimum wage, living wage, and fairness, inclusion and respect, which is a big issue in the construction industry.
Looking specifically at nuclear, do you think there are perceived barriers to entry to nuclear for SMEs that might deter some of them for even bidding for work in the first place?
I think Steve's touched on this already, where looking at the perceived barriers around health and safety, around quality, and probably around trading record, insurances, and previous experience of the industry. So actually getting involved can be difficult. But the important thing to remember, if you're the construction industry and the infrastructure industry around the UK needs SMEs, so it's important to bring SMEs in at some stage. The onus is very much also on the contractor who sits in the middle of that relationship with the end client to make that happen. So yes, there are perceived barriers, but it's important to work in partnership with the main contractor.
The barriers that can be overcome. So how does bidding for work in nuclear differ from other sectors? I mean, for example, are there quality standards or accreditations that businesses need to have that they wouldn't necessarily need, even if it was good practice, for bidding for other construction industry contracts?
I suppose the best way of looking at it is, again, what Steve said, that the safety standards are ramped right up, the security standards are ramped right up, and the quality standards. So all of those are there in spades. It's very, very important to get those right first and foremost, and be absolutely sure-footed. And that shows then, obviously, at the bidding stage and at the pre-bidding stage.
Eva, if I can bring you in now, what assistance is available to SMEs to help them to prepare to tender for work in nuclear?
Right. I mean, touching on what Steve and Mark's talking about, perceived barriers, the tendering process can often be a barrier for many SMEs, and it is simply really not their daytime job. The support that we provide goes beyond just preparing business to tender.
Yeah.
It covers a wide range of business support, from general marketing support to specialised support around supply chain development. So the support we can provide are for free practical one-to-one support with professional business advisor, a huge range of training courses and workshops covering every aspect of business. In fact, we're going to be running a workshop in a few weeks called Get Your Business Fit to Tender. So these are really useful workshops for SMEs to come along, and these workshops are free and funded. We provide SMEs with access to business opportunities by working with big organizations like Morgan Sindall, and we're going to be working together going forward and make those opportunities more transparent to SMEs. We will signpost SMEs and refer SMEs to partner organizations like Nuclear AMRC, Cumbrian Manufacturing Services, the Sustainability School. We provide SMEs with access to different sources of funding and subsidies, particularly with subsidies where SMEs can use those subsidies to gain accreditations to get into specific sectors. So we also host many high-profile events like the Chamber's Summer Lunch, and encourages business to come together, because it is through networking that businesses can raise their profile. And finally, we have the Supply Chain Gateway, and where we host a range of supply chain development information in a variety of format, from video clips to webinars and podcasts, like what we're doing today. The Gateway is really growing from strength to strength, and we're again working with likes of Morgan Sindall to be able to promote some of the life opportunities to SME, and working with the Supply Chain Sustainability School is a great way forward to jointly provide SMEs with the tools to move forward and to tender for more work.
Okay. Now, We know from feedback at the Chamber that many businesses in Cumbria struggle to find and recruit staff with the necessary skills. Now, Morgan Sindall is involved in an initiative called Together Cumbria, which aims to help tackle skill shortages. Steve, can you explain about that and how it works?
Yeah, so Altogether Cumbria recognises that organisations in Cumbria will need to transition their workforce over the short to medium term. So an example of that is reprocessing finishing at Sellafield.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose those skills, as we know we'll need them in the future, and if we lose them we probably won't get them back. Example of where we might need them in the future is New Gen or West Cumbria mining. So Altogether Cumbria is a social enterprise that enables that workforce transition between organisations and also creates a social impact funding which we can reinvest in the local community, which training establishments and other worthwhile social initiatives can benefit from.
Okay. Finally, one last question, but I'm going to put it to each of you in turn. What advice would you give to an SME that is thinking about dipping its toe in the water and tendering for work in nuclear? Steve?
So we've already touched on why nuclear is different, but my main message would be don't be scared of the word nuclear. Although suppliers must adhere to the security, health and safety and quality requirements, a lot of the work that actually goes on inside the fence is just like the work that goes on outside the fence. So Morgan Sindall has many examples of where we've brought members of our existing supply chain to work on nuclear sites for the first time, and now they're delivering just as well as the more established nuclear companies. So I guess the message is come and talk to us.
And I suppose once you're inside the fence, as it were, to use that analogy,
Yeah.
and you've won your first contract, then you're in a much better position to tender for future contracts or maybe at different sites and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like any other sector, whereas if you're operating in that sector, people get to know about you, people get to hear the good messages, the good work that you're doing, and therefore, your sort of reputation precedes you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And Mark, what advice would you give to an SME novice, if you like, that's looking at nuclear?
What I'd say is that if you're an SME, you've got some innate advantages. SMEs, the smaller businesses in the UK, carry most of the innovation. Where do the good ideas come from? They come from small organisations that are growing people with great ideas. So that's needed, even in this industry. That's needed. Mm-hmm. They carry a lower overhead than their larger counterparts. Yeah. That's really helpful. Yeah. That is extremely useful. Yes. And the final thing is that within an SME, the decision maker can take a decision pretty quickly. You don't get quite so shrouded in bureaucracy, and this is a very detailed industry. So all of that is of help. Play those cards to your advantage and get involved.
And finally, Eva, what would you say?
Well, my advice to SMEs in the county is, firstly, it's very easy. Do your research on the internet. There's plenty of information out there. Check out the Cumbria Supply Chain Gateway for information on opportunities. Second bit is exactly echoing what Steve is saying, raise your profile. Large companies often encourage SMEs to come and speak to them. Don't be afraid to go and speak to them. And today, the Awareness Day is exactly what we're doing, bringing SMEs, to speak to Morgan Sindall. So I encourage companies to introduce yourself to the bigger companies and to make contact and to promote yourself. And thirdly, I would say register for email alerts on company supply chain portals. A lot of large companies have supply chain sites where you can register for alerts when opportunities come on board. Do that. That's really important. You'll be the first in the know when opportunities come up. And I guess this is not the end, but the fourth one I would put in is obviously contact the Cumbria Growth Hub and inquire what support is available to help you better yourself, like the workshops that we're running to help you get yourself ready for those opportunities that are coming on stream.
Okay. Thanks very much, everyone.